Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather and today I'm here to wrap up all of the books that I read in September. I'm always nervous about how much I'm going to be able to read in September with back to school season being so hectic and so busy and so tiring. But I'm actually very pleased with the amount that I managed to read this month. So I'm going to start by talking about all of the audiobooks and ebooks that I read first, and then I'll move into the physical books that I read. So firstly, in terms of ebooks, I had one library hold come in, which was completely out of the blue, and that was The Secret Lives of Country Gentlemen by K.J. Charles. And this is a male-male historical romance, which has been compared to Bridgerton meets Poldark. Honestly, it leans more to the side of Poldark, but it is quite spicy as well, which I think is where the Bridgerton comparison comes in. It was delightful, though. We have two young men, one of whom has been raised by his uncle and aunt after his father remarries and basically shoves him out of the house when he's a small boy. And so there are lots of complicated feelings as he comes home to reclaim the estate now that his father is dead. And the other young man, he knows from various clandestine hookups, but he soon finds out that the other young man is in fact the de facto leader of a smuggling ring. And this poses a variety of moral quandaries for our hero, but they soon have to work together to solve another mystery for him to be able to hold onto his inheritance and their relationship. It's not a fairy tale in terms of it does not shy away from the homophobia and horrific consequences for gay men in the late 1700s, but nor did it linger on them. That was not the focus of the novel, which made it incredibly enjoyable and hopeful, and I look forward to reading more of K.J. Charles's work. I also finally read the arc of Introducing Mrs. Collins by Rachel Parris, and I loved this book. I was so hoping that I would, and I really, really did. Rachel Parris is a member of the improv group Ostentatious, and I own 3 of their productions that they recorded and sell online, and I absolutely love them, especially the one that she is in called Queer Eye for the Regency Guy. I adore that one so much. So when I found out that she had written a Pride and Prejudice retelling that follows Charlotte Lucas, oh my gosh, I needed to get my hands on a copy, and I'm so grateful that NetGalley sent me an ARC because she did a fantastic job. Given her improv background, I was expecting this to be funnier than it actually was. And don't get me wrong, there are still moments of comedy, and it pays homage to Austen's comedic genius. But the thing that I loved the most is that it treats, with the exception of one, every single character with such insight and compassion. And it makes you really deeply care about characters that I honestly hadn't before. There are those characters in Pride and Prejudice that we love to see in a scene, but I don't think we would say that we care about them. But this novel made me care about them and created a huge amount of empathy and pathos. And all of her insight can be backed up by the original novel. They're just things that you're not really given the time to think about. So if you get a chance to read it, it will be published on November 6th, I believe, 5th or 6th. Absolutely go out and read it. It is so worth it, and I cannot rave about it enough. In terms of audiobooks, while waiting for a variety of library holds to come in, I've been re-listening to Harry Potter as read by Stephen Fry, now that they are available in the US. And so this month I finished listening to The Goblet of Fire. But since I don't want to support the author, that is all I'm going to say about that. In addition, my hold on the 3rd Finlay Donovan novel came in, so I listened to that audiobook as well. And that was Finlay Donovan Jumps the Gun by El Cosimano. This is a series in which Finley Donovan is a newly divorced mother and mystery writer who completely accidentally falls into the world of contract killing and organized crime with hilarious, if dark, consequences. And so I won't tell you too much about it, but through a series of strange events, she and her nanny slash accountant, Vero, end up at a citizens police academy for about a week. A variety of tasks unfold there for them that center around the events of the previous two books. These books are absolutely ludicrous in terms of how far in over their heads Finley and Vero end up getting, with very few people ending up any the wiser. And you just keep waiting for the dam to break. But it still hasn't, and I don't know how much longer El Cosimano can keep this up. But they are still fun, light listens, and I'm currently listening to book 4 as well. So I hope to finish that early in October and then move on to my Victober listen for the month. My library hold on the rom-commers also came in by Catherine Center, and this was recommended to me by my dear friend Amanda, and she never steers me wrong. Our tastes have aligned since we were 7 or 8 years old, and this one held up as well. This is a romance, dare I say a romantic comedy, about a young woman who has been stuck at home ever since a tragic accident has left her father in need of round-the-clock care. But one of her dear childhood friends, and indeed ex-boyfriend, hooks her up with an incredible opportunity career-wise. She has always wanted to be a screenwriter, and he gives her the opportunity to have her help her favorite screenwriter rewrite the rom-com that he has tried to write. This man does not typically write anything like a rom-com, and apparently this screenplay is terrible. So Logan begs our heroine to please come out and help him figure this out. However, when she has organized care for her father and makes her way out to LA and arrives on this screenwriter's doorstep, she discovers that Logan did not tell him any of this plan. And now she is expected to stay in this man's house and work with him for a week or two to help him rework this screenplay. And romantic comedy unfolds from there, as you might assume. This was a really enjoyable book. I thought it dealt with the heavier topics really well. The end got a little bit convoluted, and if you haven't seen my August wrap-up, I would encourage you to watch that before you hear what I have to say next. It got to a point towards the end where I thought if I accidentally listen to one more cancer romance novel, I am going to scream. Luckily, it took a swift left turn and it did not turn out the way my Oxford year did, and I was very relieved. So I would still highly recommend this if you're looking for a lovely romance novel to listen to, but it does deal with grief and death and some darker topics, especially health-wise. Now let's touch on the 3 physical books that I read this year. The first one has no slipcover because I got it secondhand, but it is The Duchess of Bloomsbury Street by Helene Hanff, and this is the sequel to 84 Charing Cross Road, sort of. I don't know that this is the direct sequel to 84 Charing Cross Road, but this is sort of Helene's diary or fictionalized diary of her trip to London in the early 70s, and it's her first time in London. And really that's it. There is no real plot. She meets a variety of lovely characters. She has fabulous adventures. A lot of people said they didn't like this as much. I actually really enjoyed it, but maybe that's because I might be as neurotic as Helene Hanff claims to be, because I could identify with a lot of the things she was expressing, especially about being in London, about travel. Maybe I'm just neurotic and that's why it worked for me, but I would encourage you to check it out if you've been thinking about it. I also read Silverborn, The Mystery of Morrigan Crow by Jessica Townsend. This is the fourth in her Nevermore series, and they claimed it would be the last, but I feel like there's still opportunity for her to extend this series. So we'll see. We'll see what she decides to do. But I really enjoyed this. Since it's the fourth book, I don't feel like I can say a lot about what happens in this novel, but Morrigan is still unraveling the mystery of who she is, both in terms of her family and in terms of her abilities. It is a magic school book, although far less of this novel takes place at the school. But she is still with all of her school friends, and they are looking at what happens when they leave the academy. Her patron, Jupiter North, is still here, and all of the people at the Deucalion where she lives. I really, really enjoyed this. It was a delightful book. I hope she continues this series. There's no pressure for her to if she feels like she doesn't want to anymore. But I found this really quite delightful. And finally, I read Moonlight Over Mayfair by Anton Dubek. This is book 2 in his historical fiction series for adults set in the Buckingham Hotel. Yes. In the late 1930s in London. And it is described as Downton with dance, and that really is what it is. We follow a variety of people who work at the Buckingham Hotel and the various ways in which the impending events of World War II start to affect their lives. And people are falling in and out of love. But I always love how he handles all of the political topics that we really don't talk about. We talk about World War II itself, but not so much the lead up to it. Last time it was looking at how a lot of the aristocracy didn't feel really bothered about the rise of fascism, and quite honestly, a lot of them agreed with it, which I feel like isn't really talked about, as awful as that is. This one we get to see the effects of the Irish Revolution and the rise of the IRA, as well as the start of the Spanish Civil War and how that would have affected the rest of Europe as well. That's something that I was quite familiar with, especially the Spanish Civil War, having studied Spanish for many, many years. We even talked about it in my senior year of high school. But I feel like not many other people really know about it or talk about it, and so I'm really, really glad that he worked it in. And I continue to adore this series. I wish we had gotten more of Raymond and Nancy in this book. They were there some, don't get me wrong, but I realized that Anton wanted to expand the series as well and talk about a lot of the other secondary characters that he had mentioned. So I'm excited to see where the next one goes. But it is set over Christmas, so I will be saving that one for December. So those are all of the books that I read in September. Let me know down below if you have any questions about any of them or any recommendations for me based on what I said I enjoyed. And I will see you soon in my Victober wrap-up at the end of the month, and you'll find out about all of the Victorian books that I've been reading, plus a couple extra. Until next time, be safe, be well, and happy reading. Bye, everyone.